Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is Talking to Myself, the part of the day where I just sit down and talk to myself about things that I was thinking the night before. We're shooting this currently on the X Pro 3 with the 18mm f2, hoping that it still gives me the same performance that I had the last couple times I've actually used it. Shout out to all 350 subscribers at the time of making this video, and also shout out to Saratoga Peanut Butter. You know exactly why. Saratoga Peanut Butter is not a sponsor of this channel, but I'm hoping to get some pull and eventually get them to sponsor because they're delicious peanut butter that is organic and also changes the way that you view your peanut butter and all peanut butter flavored items. So shout out to young Ansel as well. Thank you so much for being a part of the video yesterday. Truly do appreciate it. We got to talk about a few things as far as with him. Fantastic photographer, someone who's not quote unquote professional, but has a professional look because he puts a lot of himself into every single shot, takes time with his composition, and even talks about a couple things that he's learned and picked up from people like Kyle McDougall on the internet and on YouTube, and exactly how he's been able to put that into his photos. So again, thank you, young Ansel, for joining. Can't wait to have him again. Be on the lookout because there's a couple people that I'll be hopefully having on the podcast pretty soon, including Frame.Count as well as Matthew Birch, a couple people that I think that you should look up and maybe even check out. One of them actually has a book out, and I'm really excited to discuss that with him, what went into it, and his travel. That was a big part of what he created. So couple things laying in bed. I've talked to some people over the past couple of nights, and including actually early this morning, some questions about switching systems. People ask questions like, hey, I've heard you talk about if you were to move to any other system, it would be Sony, or this, that, or the other. If Fujifilm didn't fulfill all your needs, you would make this move. And it is a big point for me to make that I am not a brand loyalist. As much as I love my Fujifilm cameras, and there's always a chance that I'll keep one in my back pocket like that X100T, there's an even larger chance, though, that if Fujifilm does not take care of the needs that I need to take care of, I will not stay with it long term. I'm not the kind of person that feels like I have to stick with a brand so that I can tell people, oh, throughout my life I've only shot one brand, I've only driven one type of vehicle, I've only driven one kind of truck and things like that. I go for whatever is going to be most cost effective and will also be the better bet for what I need. For example, if I was shooting sports photography again, or if I was shooting let's say something with fast range of motion, there's a likelier chance that I would go with Fujifilm because of the autofocus and the tracking. That has nothing to do with any of the other systems, but why would you not go for the best for what you want? Whenever it comes to shooting weddings and portraits and things like this and travel, I specifically choose Fujifilm because I like the lighter lenses. I like the kind of extra length I get because of the APS-C crop factor, and it basically makes my whole rig lighter and also more compact so I can carry more things. I used to rock on my Canon system for my EOS R. I used to have the 35 f1.8, the image stabilized. I used to have the 50mm 1.4 from Sigma, the 40mm pancake lens from Canon, the f2.8, and the 200 f2.8 from Canon L Glass. In the Sigma, the pancake, and the 200 were all adapted. Whenever I would go and travel, I would literally either only bring the 35 and the 40, or I would only bring either the 50 or the 200 depending on what I need to do because I could not handle the weight. The EOS R was already heavy enough, and the lenses added on with the adapters, it wasn't fun. It already stuck out a lot. There was a lot of length, and I felt like it was not like I was really that inconspicuous when taking photos for street photography. Actually, for one of my prior trips to Seattle, I have family that lived there. There was a time where I actually hardly even took out my camera because it was so big and so heavy that whenever we were walking around, I didn't want to lug it around with me, which is another reason why I completely moved back over 100% to Fujifilm, was because the ease. The X Pro 3, I take that with me. Actually, my future father-in-law at one point thought I was shooting on a film camera. Whenever I was taking photos of them, whenever we were eating at a restaurant, he thought I was shooting film. Whenever I flipped down the LCD screen, he felt like he was bamboozled, which I think kind of like made him put his guard down, actually, to where he didn't care about being photographed because he didn't think like, okay, this is going to be something I'm going to see soon. Anyway, so that's one of the benefits of Fujifilm. Also with the fact that these things just look so damn beautiful. Let me take a photo of this without messing up the autofocus, and you'll be able to see these cameras hopefully I'll put this up. Who even knows, honestly. The Fujifilm cameras just look great. They look beautiful, and they're conversation starters, and whenever they're all black like the one I have, people really don't even care about it. It's not the big camera they're seeing on TV shows. It's not the cameras they're seeing on movies that these real reporters use for cinematic purposes. It's just a tiny small camera that a lot of times they associate with things that are unprofessional or just enthusiasts, which is what I'm doing, but I'm still posting your face online because of public domain. So, that's just some things to think about whenever you're making a switch. The biggest thing though, whenever you're making a switch, is you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to tell yourself, am I going to be going in debt moving to this new system? And some systems, when you're trading in, for example, with Fujifilm, if I trade in this system and try to go to Sony, there is a high likely chance that I will not be able to have all the lenses that I have right now immediately. If I go with first party, most likely not even first party. If I was to trade my X Pro 3, I can maybe make money off it. That's the benefit, because I bought it so cheap from Lens Authority for around $1,300. I could probably make $1,500 off it on eBay. Selling this 18f2 with the way that it sells online, I could probably make anywhere from $300 to $400. A 35 1.4 with the condition it's in, I could probably make anywhere from $300 to $400. The 50mm f2, anywhere between $300 to $400. And then the two lenses, the manual focus I have used, would probably be, I'd probably be happy getting around $100 for each of them. When you total that all together, that's not really looking like the same amount of lenses that I had from Fujifilm switching to Sony. I'd probably have to go with an A7 III, which is a fantastic camera, one that I would be more than happy to get. And I'd either have to go with a Samyang and Rokinon type of lenses. Of course, I'd go with the Samyang Pancake, probably the 35 1.8 or 35 2.8. But for me, I'd probably go down that route. The only lens that I would really be looking to go for that is a first party was I would try to get either a Zeiss compilation like the 55 1.8, or I would try to get the 85 1.8 from Fujifilm. So if I could get that Samyang with one of those other two lenses, I think that I would be okay. But basically, I'm going from a system of, I think I counted out, was it 3 lenses or you got 6 lenses? Sorry, not 3, 6 lenses to a system of 2 because of price difference. So always remember that with full frame, there's a little bit of a jump in price difference. Now, if I was switching to Sony APS-C, because I still didn't mind the crop factor and I wanted to get some of that Sigma glass or something, it would be different. The Sigma lenses on Sony APS-C are pretty affordable, and they're amazing lenses, and Sony actually does a really good job of taking care of their APS-C lineup. So me switching to an A6300 and an A6400 would actually not hurt me. I could probably get away with getting the 18 to, I believe, the 104, 18 to 100 or something of that nature zoom lens, the f4. I could use that for a walk around lens. It's pretty light as well, not really what you'd expect out of a zoom lens as far as weight. I could probably get me a nice Sigma APS-C lens, and I could probably get me a nice, maybe the 50mm 1.8, or mess around somewhere with that and have a really good kit. I could also probably at the same time get me a battery grip for that. That way, if I wanted more hold on it, because I don't really like the grips, whenever it comes to Sony APS-C cameras, I could be satisfied with that. So there's a lot of different routes you can go, but don't feel like when you're trading up that you should go into debt. Buy the lenses that you need for the things that you want to do. That's the biggest thing. Honestly, if there's a lot of you that just want to get into full frame and you don't want to spend a lot of money, but you want a mirrorless camera because you want to be able to transition the lenses, I always recommend the 5D Mark II or the 5D Classic. Those are the two cameras I always recommend for beginners. But if you want to go mirrorless, more than anything, the two cameras that I would recommend are probably Sony A7, the original A7, and get yourself a nice pancake lens from Samyang, or one of the Samyang lenses, period. I would go with the 35 and the 24 pancake lenses, because you can do one for street photography and one for portraits somewhat, that way you can start working on that with that 35mm focal length. And the other one that I would recommend if you wanted to go full frame and get your first camera is the EOS RP. I think that's a great deal. Don't worry about people saying it doesn't have a lot of professional things that the EOS R does. It gets you into RF glass. You can get the 35 1.8, the 50 1.8, and the 85 1.8 from Canon, and you can actually have yourself a really good dynamic set of lenses. I don't look for optical quality or image quality or IQ, whatever you want to call it, because it's subjective. And so A lot of times when you're reviewing image quality, you're listening to another guy taking photos and putting them on YouTube or on a computer where there's compression. You're listening to them tell you if a lens is good enough. And then your whole life you're going about thinking this lens is great. Instead of buying the lens and the focal length that you would like, you're going for the one that someone else vouches for, not knowing anything about copies, quality control, or anything like that. I think that's a mistake for a lot of people to get wrapped up in that, because that actually can hinder you in your buying process, because you may want a certain lens, you may want something, a certain focal length, but because someone else tells you it's not good optical quality, you automatically take that as gospel and you go down that route of saying this isn't a good lens. And then you're someone who has never tried that lens and you never know anything about that lens firsthand, but you will continue to talk against that lens. To me, I don't work like that. I don't care about optical quality because in everything that I do, I'm still going to be editing my RAWs, and I'm probably going to be shooting in a recipe whenever it comes to photos. You guys who shot film will understand what I'm saying whenever I say this. And those of you who still shoot film, especially with vintage glasses maybe that are yellowed or maybe that have gotten a little bit of haze in them, optical quality isn't that big of a deal. It's the second thing you notice about a shot. The first thing you notice about a shot is the composition and basically how the shot was put together. If I get the Zeiss 55 1.8 and I'm shooting on the A7 III or the A7R4 and I have a busy background because I accidentally stopped it down so much because I didn't have an ND filter, and so the portrait's got a trash can and stuff behind it instead of that being blurred out, or if I have the same lenses and I have a person looking out of the frame, and please tell me if this is going well. I'm trying a different setup with my lighting to where it's not as much front focus, so I feel like the 18F2 is focusing with what I'm doing. I made sure purposely that this background was a little bit lighter, and I wanted to see how this did with a blown out background and if backlighting really did affect it, because I don't know if the contrast takes over in this. But yeah, going back to what I'm saying, if I have someone looking out of the frame or there's too much headroom, do you think people are going to notice the optical quality? Do you think they're going to care about corner to corner sharpness? Even more, when you guys are looking for these lenses and you care about optical quality, what is the optical quality you're looking at? Is it corner to corner sharpness? You want corner to corner sharpness on a portrait lens? The Zeiss 55 1.8 is the sharpest lens that a lot of people said for the longest time on the Sony system until I think maybe the 51.2, but they always talked about the chromatic aberration and purple fringing, which is kind of a thing in a lot of Zeiss lenses, and I believe even Leica lenses, there's still some of that. It's not like anyone's been able to get rid of it completely, and there wasn't even that many coatings in that 55 1.8, but it still did great. A lot of people will warn against optical quality. Even whenever you're talking about lenses that are supposed to be great lenses from different systems, the Canon 50mm 1.2 for the EF mount, which everyone, that was a great lens to get. That was one of the portrait lenses to buy. Even their 85 for EF, their L glass, it had a lot of corner sharpness issues. It had vignetting issues. It had they both had flaring issues, and they both had high issues with chromatic aberration. And Sigma, the 1.4, actually did better with chromatic aberration and with purple fringing and with vignetting and with flaring. But everyone talks about how great of optical quality those Canon lenses are. If I was to sit you in a room and show you a whole bunch of photos, you wouldn't recognize the optical quality. You would recognize the composition and how that photo makes you feel. So if you're someone looking to switch systems, if you're someone looking to buy lenses, keep that in mind. Focus first on what lenses you need. Do you want a fast aperture? Do you mind it being heavy? Do you want it to be longer? Do you want it to be chunkier? Do you want it to be shorter? Do you want it to be a pancake? Do you want it to, how light do you want it to be? What focal length do you want? Focus on that. And do you want to be manual focus? Do you want to be autofocus? Do you mind manual focus? That's what you should focus on. Don't focus on what someone else on the internet tells you. I can tell you the 18mm f2 and 35 1.4 are great all the time. It doesn't mean that you should buy them unless that's a focal length you need. I think you should buy them because I think they're fun lenses. But if you're not someone who shoots street photography, and if you're someone who shoots sports or something like that, why would you ever for any system get a 28mm focal length instead of a zoom? Why would you get a prime lens 50mm instead of something that is throws longer for you sitting in the back of the end zone or at the end of a baseline? Do you understand what I'm saying? Stop listening to people about optical quality. Stop taking optical quality as your first most important thing, because it doesn't matter, because you don't notice it. When you're on Instagram and you're looking at people's photos on ESPN that have been published from CNN, MSNBC, from Reuters, from NPR, and your local newspaper, are you looking at that print and thinking, man, look at the optical quality of that lens? Or are you thinking about the story that's going with it, the story it's telling, and you're thinking about the emotion it gives you? You guys have to be more honest with yourself. Do you really give a shit about optical quality? We don't. We just listen to someone else bitch and say, I shot it on a chart. And if you're shooting at 1.2, guess what? It's not sharp. Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, no fucking duh. So you guys just really need to, please don't give that shit to young photographers. Please don't try to talk to them about optical quality. They don't understand optical quality. And a lot of you professionals, you don't either. You assume larger price and heavier glass is optical quality. The Zeiss 55 1.8 is not the heaviest Sony lens, and it's not the lightest Sony lens, and it's not the best whenever it comes to working with chromatic aberration and things like that. But it is one of their best lenses of all time. Period. I'm not sure if another lens will come with the micro contrast and the sharpness of that lens. Was it sharp corner to corner? No. But you can't tell me that's not a great lens. Even more so, their 85 1.8, their cheapo 85 1.8, that is an amazing lens. Their 28 f2, an amazing lens. The Samyang 50mm 1.4 and the 35 1.4 are two of my favorite lenses of all time. But everyone wants to talk about optical quality. When the right lens for you, beginning photographer or any photographer, is a focal length to need to take photos of what you love. So always keep that in mind. That's about it. Make sure to check out the video podcast, talking about photos with strangers with Young Ansel. Give Young Ansel a follow, and talk to you guys soon. Today is Saturday. Not sure if I'm doing anything and making anything tomorrow, but we'll see if I start overthinking in the middle of the night. So have a good one.